support confirmed that that this was basically false. And what's happened at this trial is there was some pretrial litigation, and Judge Chen is the trial's being held out there in San Francisco, where Elon Musk is not very popular due to, if you haven't been paying attention, he bought Twitter and then he pretty much fired everybody. And Twitter's over there in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, so he's not popular among the tech guys over there, and he's having to stand trial in there. They made a last-ditch effort to move the venue to Texas, citing that he couldn't get a fair trial there, and it was denied. And that's going to be an issue for appeal. I mean, this is what's happening. Whenever you go to trial, I try to tell people the appeals are going to be coming down, and it's hard to keep a trial verdict from being affirmed on appeal, and especially the appeal of the appeal, because it's hard to run a clean trial. But he tried to change venue, but there he is over there, and he's done a couple tweets back in 2018, and what people are alleging is they bought Tesla stock on August 7th or August 8th or August 9th because he said he's taking it private. The stock price went through the roof that day, and this is back in 2018. Tesla was not doing good, okay? Tesla for years had been stagnant, and it was not doing good, and this is before the meteoric rise of Tesla through 2018, 2019, 2020 to where it is now. But basically it shot up real quick, and 10 days later it dropped off. And there are people who are saying, look, we lost a lot of money. And the first witness that testified for the plaintiff's attorney over there in the securities fraud lawsuit, he's like a 72-year-old guy who said, man, I lost $3 million. Like, I looked at that tweet like, oh, this company's going to go private. I better get this stock now. And then 10 days later, it's like, oh, that wasn't even true. And now the stock's plummeted. So before this trial came, the civil trial that's conducted by plaintiffs and plaintiffs' attorneys, we have the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, actually brought charges against Elon Musk for this exact same scenario. And Elon Musk settled with them for $40 million. And he has since come out and said he was coerced into that settlement, that he didn't really want to settle, but he just did it. What it really comes down to, for purposes of the civil trial, that settlement doesn't mean anything. And that settlement doesn't mean anything because it was done without an admission of guilt. And if you see a lot of times, that's what these companies do when they hit these big settlements, is they don't want to admit guilt. And the plaintiff's attorneys cave to it, and the plaintiffs do too, because they just want to get their money. And these companies just go, we're not going to admit any guilt. So he did settle for these exact same things, $40 million, and he did appeal the settlement of that also, and he lost the appeal of that settlement. So he's maintained that settlement doesn't mean anything about the tweets. And he actually is maintaining that he did, while the tweets are technically inaccurate, that investor support was not confirmed, funding was not secured. What he's maintained is, look, he had the investors in place to do this. And what he's saying is he had the Saudi princes, of which there's actually not even a factual dispute. He had multiple meetings with them, and they were already big-time shareholders in Tesla, that they had expressed informal interest in putting the money forward to take it private. And I'll tell you, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, you might say that they're the richest men in the world on paper. They got nothing on these Saudi princes, man. Off of paper, these Saudi princes, they got more money than God. And if that would have been a drop in the bucket for them to put up at the time, whatever it was going to be, $72 billion for Tesla at the time at a stock price of $420. But he didn't actually have that secured. Those were informal talks. Elon Musk is also, and this has come out at the trial during his testimony, he said, look, he owns this other company called SpaceX. And SpaceX is a completely private company. But just like he used his stock shares, he sold a bunch of SpaceX, like, I don't know, $25 billion worth of SpaceX stock, his private equity in the firm. He sold it off in order to buy Twitter. So he's saying, like, look, even if I didn't have the Saudi princes, I got my own ways of getting funding for this. So in my mind, I wasn't saying anything false. We could have got the funding. We could have took it private. They've also alleged that, Elon Musk was dating this musician named Grimes back at the time that he tweeted this. And she's known to partake a little bit in the marijuana, is what they call it, the Mary Jane. And if you don't know, 420 is kind of synonymous with marijuana. I think I looked it up one time online, and it was police code for marijuana at some point. I don't know if it still is police code 420, but that's where it came from. So people go, April 20th is the big pot smoking day, and 420 is what, marijuana, the community's always saying to each other. And so his tweet that he came out with said, hey, I'm taking Tesla private at 420, $420. They've said, hey, this is a kind of like a marijuana joke that you were making to make your girlfriend kind of giggle a little bit. Well, he's come out at trial. He goes, no, absolutely not. That it was just a coincidence. 420 was exactly 20% over the valuation of Tesla's stock price. So he's saying, no, it was not a 420 joke. Was it a 420 marijuana joke at the time? I mean, if you guys pay attention to Elon Musk's Twitter at all, I mean, this guy, he's a little irresponsible when it comes to what he tweets out. And so I wouldn't put it past him for making that 420 joke that day. But he's come out on the stand and said, no, absolutely was not a 420 joke. But he does say that 420 is an interesting number, and it does have like a karmic quality to it. And he doesn't know if that's bad karma or good karma anymore. He doesn't. But they've accused him of that. And he's also come out and said that he believes that he'd had the funding to take it private. So what that defense is going towards is one of the elements of securities fraud, that you didn't make a false statement or something that you knew to be false, right? And so was the statement false? And did you know it was false, or did you disregard the fact that it was probably false? Well, here's why I say Elon Musk cannot win this trial, because Judge Chen, the sitting judge over there, ruled prior to trial that the jury's going to be instructed. That means it's not even in the jury's hands. It doesn't matter what you testify to. He's telling the jury, we've already, as a matter of law, said that these statements were false, these tweets were false, and that Elon Musk was reckless. So already that's taken out of the jury's hands. That's like if we went into a theft case, a robbery case, and Elon Musk is accused of running into a store with a firearm and robbing the store of money with a deadly weapon, right? And the judge goes, well, we've already, as a matter of law, jury, you are already to presume that Elon Musk was the guy with the mask on, and that gun, he used it. And the only thing you're here to decide is if money was really taken out of the register. That's it. And then the defendant gets on the stand at trial and goes, that wasn't me in the mask. That wasn't me. That gun's not even real. And it's like, well, I know that's what you're saying on the stand, but the judge has already told the jury that as a matter of law, that is you in the mask and that gun is real. So that's what's going on here. The only thing the plaintiffs need to show is that those statements were material, meaning those statements really made someone made their decision to buy that stock relying on that statement from Elon Musk. And they've already put up the 72-year-old guy, and they got plenty of witnesses who are going to come in there and go, when he tweeted that, I bought. I've been buying Tesla for a while, and when he tweeted that, I believed in the company and I bought it, and it ended up not being true. And then they need to prove, like, I lost money on it. So did you sell the stock? Which could be a little bit of a defense here, because if you're not following the stock market, I'll let you know, the most successful stock since 2018 until recently, I mean, I think it's shed about 50% of its value. And even then, it's still, even losing 50% of its current value, still might be the most successful stock since 2018. Take a wild guess. It's Tesla. Tesla had a meteoric rise after this. So anybody who held onto their stock made out like bandits. So showing this economic loss might actually be something that the plaintiffs aren't able to show for everybody in this class, right? Maybe the guy they put on the stand, they probably put on the most sympathetic plaintiff that they could find, the 72-year-old guy who lost $3 million on it. But yeah, a lot of people actually made out great on this stock. So why, if Elon Musk is already facing an uphill battle, why did he not settle this claim before trial? Why is he going to trial on this? Because look, most of the time, these big companies settle these class actions, these securities fraud class actions, and rich guys like Elon Musk settle them because losing at trial just opens you up to so much financial liability. Not that Elon Musk is going to care. I mean, he was the first richest guy in the world. Now he's the second richest after he just set the Guinness Book of World Records for losing the most money in the fastest way. When Tesla lost half of its valuation, he went from like 320 billion to 147 billion. He can afford to pay this. I mean, pretty much. He can afford to pay this if he loses. But why didn't he settle? Why is he going on the stand and fighting this? And I'll tell you, it might not be so much to win this case of this trial. Because I think The fact that Judge Chen took this factual decision out of the jury's hands of whether this statement was false and whether Elon Musk knew it was false and acted recklessly with it, he took that out of the jury's hands and made that decision as a judge as a matter of law. That's going to be a problem on appeal. That's going to be a problem, especially you go, well, why is Elon Musk now testifying for 3 days talking about how he believed that he had the funding, that maybe he didn't have funding secured, technically secured in that, and maybe he misspoke, but he's saying, look, the same day we did the tweet, we linked a press release to that tweet from Tesla website. So anybody who looked at that tweet would look at our press release, and the press release was about 10 paragraphs and said, we're considering taking it private. And it was a lot less concrete than what his tweet said. And then he's saying that, no, I had my SpaceX money, and I also had these Saudi princes saying they're about to throw down on it. So I thought we pretty much did have funding. You know, I shouldn't have used secured. I shouldn't have said that. Why is he spending 3 days testifying about that? Well, they're laying the record for the appeal. Like, look, judge, you took this element away from the jury whether the statement was false. And look at the record that I put forth at trial, my executives and me testifying that we thought it was true. Judge, you took it out of the jury's hands that I knew it was false. We've had 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, a week of testimony from multiple witnesses saying we thought it to be true. I can see an appellate court striking this and saying, hey, we need a new trial here. I mean, you basically took the most important things the jury's supposed to decide out of the jury's decision-making process, Judge. Of course we need a new trial. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense to me, because usually after a plaintiff's attorney wins a ruling like that from a judge, where a judge goes, we're going to instruct the jury that you're basically guilty, it's settlement time. I mean, that's what the plaintiff's attorneys want. They're like, woo, we just got that ruling. Settlement time, let's get paid, pay out the class action people, and then we as attorneys will get our payday too. And Elon Musk is saying, no, let's go to trial, man. You guys ain't getting paid anytime soon. All right? We're going to make this so laborious for you that by the time we get done with the appeal, if we don't win on the appeal, we're going to appeal the appeal. And when we get that new trial, man, these class action attorneys, they're bankrolling this whole lawsuit out of their pocket. That's what class action attorneys do. And so Elon Musk is putting them to the test. But as great of a decision that was by Judge Chen, it really threatens the viability of this case to survive an appeal. You know, let me tell you a little story of another case. You know, we talk about the appeals, right? Trump.org in December. It was Donald Trump's old real estate firm. They just did a criminal trial up there in New York. The organization itself was found guilty of pretty much every count that was alleged against it, mainly tax fraud. What Trump.org had been doing was, it was basically to avoid their executives paying taxes. They were giving their executives all these perks, like paying for their, their lavish houses and their cars and Rolls Royces and their daughters' private education, like anything they could find as a tax loophole, what they thought was a tax loophole, they were doing that. So instead of me as an executive getting paid $1 million cash, hey, $1 million cash, I got to pay 50% in tax. Pay me $1 million in perks, and I'm going to use those perks, and those are all tax-free. And basically it went to trial, and at the end of the trial, they were found guilty on every count, and they got the maximum fine levied against the corporation. Trump's not part of that corporation anymore. He had to get rid of his ownership stake in it when he became president. But the corporation and the current executives did go to trial. So they're convicted. Well, what happens after the trial? They have their appellate rights. And just like, I was talking about this thing with the Alec Baldwin trial, same thing with the Tesla trial. Sometimes the jurors themselves and jury selection is going to be a big issue. And anything that you have that goes on with Donald Trump is going to have jury selection issues. I mean, it might be the most notorious person in the world at this point. I mean, you have to get a jury that's been living under a rock for the last 10, 15, 20 years to get an impartial jury with anything that Donald Trump is associated with. I mean, you got people who are for him, you got people who are against him. Well, a juror comes out after this, and I'd say you're not going to believe this, but you need to believe this because I believe it, because it happens all the time. This juror comes out to the media and says, yeah, the judge kept saying that we needed to, not consider Donald Trump as part of this trial because he's not part of the trial. It's Trump.org and it's these executives. And so Donald Trump is not on trial. And that was, we understood that instruction. But he comes out and tells the media in an interview, he goes, but I'll tell you, it was really hard to separate my personal animus against Donald Trump from these Trump.org guys. In specific, I couldn't stop thinking about the 2016 debate with Hillary Clinton, where she showed that he hadn't paid federal taxes in years and that he was proud of it. It just goes to show, Trump.org, taxpayers are losers in Trump land. This is what he tells. And that's a problem. On appeal, you have a juror that convicted and then after the fact says, I couldn't separate my personal animus from what was going on with Donald Trump. That's an issue, right? And when we come in for jury selection, we're looking for an impartial jury. We're looking for, I always start voir dire out with this. I say, guys, gals, we all come in here with our own personal prejudices. We have our own life experience. We have our own biases. We all do. Part of the reason you're here is because you have those. But what we're asking you to do, and what we're asking a commitment from you to say is, can you separate that out from what your duty is here? The fact that you might be racist. I mean, let's put it, that's one of the main things we're looking for in jury selection. Is somebody racist to the point where, look, we all have racial biases. If you say you don't have racial biases when you're out there in public, like, you're just not being honest, okay? We all have racial biases. But let me make a further statement of that. I think a lot of us can say we could set aside our racial biases of whatever we feel, given our own life experience. We can set that aside in a courtroom when we're looking at a guy who's supposed to be charged with a criminal offense and go, I'm not going to let his race, he's sitting there at the defense stand, he's not even going to take the stand to testify. I'm not going to let his race shade my evaluation of whether this evidence proves that he committed the crime. That's what we're looking for. I'm not looking for a person who says, I don't have a racist bone in my body. I'm looking for a person who says, hey, I could set any biases aside and I'm going to judge this case objectively based on what I see here in court. But when after the trial, you have jurors who said they could do that, and then after the trial, they come out publicly and say they did not do that, that's a reversal right there. And that's probably going to be a reversal in Trump.org. That's why Trump.org lawyers, they're already going to litigate every single little issue. Trump.org is not only going to appeal that issue, they're going to appeal every little thing. And that's why they go to trial. And so I want to bring this back to Elon Musk. Why is he going to trial when the judge has basically ruled as a matter of law you're guilty? He's basically ruled that as a matter of law you're guilty. Well, you're keeping your appellate rights alive. And you're also Elon Musk. And just like Donald Trump, Elon Musk is about as famous as a person gets. And so after the trial, yeah, those jurors who said they could be impartial when you were picking them, they might not necessarily stick to that story after the trial. And if that can also become an issue. So there's a million issues to appeal. But man, when a judge rules that the basic elements of the crime, or here in a plaintiff civil lawsuit, the offense are always as a matter of law proven, and they're instructing the jury of that, man, it's why would you go up and take the stand and try and testify in your own defense and not settle it? Well, there's got to be a reason. And I think this man has a game plan. But the thing that surprises me the most about Elon Musk is this guy has not become more careful in his tweets. I mean, this guy is tweeting even more about certain issues that are coming out that he knows is going to have blowback for him. But what he's not doing so much anymore, I guess, is, tweeting out 180 characters or whatever it is on Twitter about plans for, that can affect shareholder price in his company. Because he's definitely facing the music on this. He's got all these lawsuits going on. He fired all those Twitter employees. They're all suing him out there in California right now that he fired them without cause. So he's no stranger to the courtroom. But every commentator who's been in the courtroom says, man, Elon Musk is very reserved in this trial. He's not really fighting back. A couple of highlights from the Elon Musk trial that have come out is the plaintiff's attorney, of course, made the allegation that he did the $420 stock price because he wanted to make his girlfriend at the time, musician Grimes, laugh because she likes to smoke pot. So that's why he put 420 up there. Elon denied it. At one point, the plaintiff's attorney called him Mr. Tweet, and Elon Musk agreed with him. He said, yeah, it's very appropriate. Call me Mr. Tweet. And they laughed. And Another big one was he accidentally called, and I've done this as an attorney too. You're so used to calling the judge your honor. Sometimes you call the witness on the stand your honor. And so he did that one time, and the whole courtroom just erupted in laughter. So there's been some moments of levity in this trial. At the end of the day, Elon Musk is he's not concerned about the money. I mean, I saw this guy recently. He was talking about whether or not we're living in a simulation. And I don't know if you guys have heard this theory that basically our civilization has advanced so far that we're living in a simulation now. I mean, video games are already at the point where you can see within the next 20 years, 10 years, you won't be able to discern reality from video games. And maybe the people in the video games think they're alive. So he really believes that. I mean, he believes that he's in a simulation, and that's why he's able to gunsling the way he does. Because he goes, look, none of this is real anyway. Like, we're just living in a game. And so, yeah, he's up there at the stand, and he's having a good time with it. And when he finished his testimony yesterday, when he walked out of the courthouse, he was pretty chatty with the reporters. They tried to gag him. The plaintiff's attorneys tried to put a gag order on him to say, hey, he shouldn't be able to even comment about this stuff anymore. He's still out there spinning the narrative that he thought he was telling the truth back in 2018. Technically, funding wasn't secured, but he thought he was telling the truth. And so he's out there saying the Judge Chen did not put a gag order on him. And that's basically what's going on with Elon Musk. You know, money, money, money. I mean, the guy is a money-making machine. He's about as famous as they get, and he's no stranger to trial, and he's pretty charismatic when he gets up there on the stand. And his defense attorney, this is curious too. I mean, I think this lends to his credibility a little bit in this trial. His defense attorney was obviously during questioning trying to paint Elon Musk as a sympathetic figure. His defense attorney was asking him about his childhood, and basically, if you don't know the story of Elon Musk did not grow up rich. You know, he had it pretty rough growing up, but he doesn't put that out there a lot. And I guess his attorney was trying to paint that narrative at trial, and Elon Musk was just kind of shutting it down. It's like, well, tell us about your childhood and upbringing. And Elon Musk, one worded it: rough, not good. Two worded it. Move on. Let's move on to what we're talking about here. So the fact that he wasn't trying to, you know, paint himself as this sympathetic, empathetic figure up on the stand, I think it does weigh in his benefit. It really does. But yeah, he could be facing billions of dollars in damages here, and the guy took the stand. And I'll tell you, this is a guy you like to see testify. You know, it's pretty fun watching the guy testify usually. He gets back and forth with the attorneys, and the last trial I saw him in, he was on the stand, and he told the attorney that, man, when you've been in enough trials as me, you do start becoming an expert in the law. Because the attorney was kind of combative with him, saying, well, you don't understand the law. He goes, actually, I've been sued so many times, I am starting to understand the law on a pretty deep level, And so that's what's going on with Elon Musk. That's what's going on with Alec Baldwin. And that's what's going on with Trump.org. You know, I mean, there are certain people in this world who are used to being sued and using the lawsuits, using the legal system in their favor. And, you know, anybody ever wants to go to law school in your family, there's this big misnomer that don't go to law school because you're going to run yourself $150,000, $200,000 in debt.